Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. I'd like to welcome you to the Harris County Flood Control District's virtual community engagement meeting to discuss the Almeda Road Bridge construction update. This virtual community meeting is being offered by the Flood Control District to continue to share vital information with the community during this period when in-person public meetings have been suspended due to safety concerns from the COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Sheldra Brigham, and I'm with the Flood Control District's communications team. I'm joined tonight by a team of Flood Control District leadership and subject matter experts to ensure we continue to keep you up to date on these important flood mitigation projects in your community. And we're also joined by staff from area elected officials' offices and community associations. We have a special message for you from Precinct 1 Commissioner Rodney Ellis.
I'm Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis. Thank you for taking time to listen to this important update on the Almeda Bridge over Braze Bayou. We hope to provide you with critical updates on the project to replace the bridge, which will begin next month. This project is a key part of Precinct 1's commitment to ensure that communities like yours are protected against flooding. And we're working diligently to provide equitable flood protection to all of our communities. More than just improving the road, increasing the height of this bridge will improve flood control along Braze Bayou. After years of devastating flood levels along Braze, Harris County is working diligently to ensure that communities that are most at risk are prioritized for these projects, which will keep your community safe and keep your family out of harm's way. When completed, the bridge will include significant improvements for both traffic and safety. It will have 5 11-foot wide lanes, a turn left lane, and a 10-foot sidewalk for added safety for pedestrians and cyclists. We also understand that this project may require some patience on your part. It'll be a major headache, to be honest with you. Almeda is a major street, and closing it will create a major detour for communities. But we're also confident that the end product will be worth it. It will increase the capacity of the channel and allow more floodwaters to flow through Braze Bayou instead of spilling out into the community and in your homes. So please bear with us as we continue working toward a more resilient, safer community for more families and neighbors along Braze Bayou. Again, thank you for participating in this meeting.
And thank you, Commissioner Ellis, for those words. We're glad to see all of those in the community so engaged in this project, and we look forward to continuing to share updates and keeping all of you in the community involved. Now, this virtual meeting will begin with a presentation to share project updates, including the project's location, planned detours, and the construction schedule. The presentation will be followed by a virtual question and answer session with Flood Control District team members. Attendees will be able to submit comments and questions through the website or by phone. And any comments not addressed during the Q&A session will receive a response from the Flood Control District after the close of the public comment period. Now, instructions on how you can participate in the virtual open house are included on the slide. They're on the virtual meeting webpage, and they're also on the Flood Control District's website. And I'll also share a reminder of these instructions when we get to the Q&A portion of tonight's meeting. We will now transition to Gary Zika, the Federal Projects Manager with the Flood Control District, who will share information about the Flood Control District and then more about this project. Gary? Gary, unmute.
Thank you. We'll have a special thank you for each of you joining us tonight. In this presentation, we'll give you a brief overview of the project. But before we get the project specifics, we'll want to share some information about the Harris County Flood Control District. The Harris County Flood Control District is a special purpose district created by the Texas legislation in 1937 in response to the floods that hit the Houston area in 1929 and 1935. The Harris County Flood Control District was created to serve as a local partner to leverage federal fundings for flood damage reduction projects. Our mission has greatly expanded over the 80 years with billions of dollars in infrastructure improvements in the ground. While we are a separate entity from Harris County, the Harris County Commissioners Court serves as our governing body. The mission of Harris County Flood Control District is to provide flood damage reduction projects that work with appropriate regard for community and natural values. One of the most difficult challenges we face in conducting effective projects that are sensitive to community and natural values in highly urbanized areas. Harris County includes 22 main watersheds, totaling approximately 1,800 square miles and more than 2,500 linear miles of channels. 2,500 linear miles is approximately the distance from New York to California. Each watershed has its own unique characteristics and needs. Tonight, we are in the Braze watershed in southwest Harris County. The red star is the area where is highlighting the Braze watershed. Our area is prone to flooding. Here are the three main reasons. The area is prone to extreme rainfalls from tropical storms and hurricanes. We're flat and we're slow draining landscapes, and we have clay soils do not soak up excess rainwater quickly. The Harris County Flood Control District works with other agencies and shares jurisdiction over flooding issues in Harris County. This slide illustrates the storm sewers and roadside ditches and collect stormwater runoff and start the process of moving it away from the streets and homes. Storm sewers and roadside ditches are the responsibility of the underlying municipality or Harris County in unincorporated parts of the county. The larger bayous and channels that take the collected stormwater and move it through our drainage system to Galveston Bay are the responsibility of the Harris County Flood Control District. This is shown on the right side of the illustration. In the middle is a stormwater detention basin, sometimes constructed by the Harris County Flood Control District. When storm sewers are increased, this increases an increase in the runoff. Since it is our policy to avoid impacts to properties downstream, detention basins help to safely take in and temporarily store excess stormwater during heavy rain events. Often we partner with Harris County precincts, utility districts, and others to add recreation amenities such as trails to these basins and along our channels. On August 25th, 2018, Harris County voters approved $2.5 billion in bonds for flood risk reduction projects. This vote followed a series of meetings across Harris County in each watershed, which resulted in a list of what is now 181 bond projects. 149 of these 181 projects have been initiated so far. A total of more than $680 million in partnership funding has been secured to stretch the 2008 bond program even further. The actual timing of each individual project will depend on a variety of factors, including environmental permitting, right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation, and in some cases, the requirements of a particular grant. That said, project lists and project schedules are updated regularly on our website. While the bond was for $2.5 billion, the full cost of every project in the bond tables is almost $5 billion. So we made it clear from the onset that we would need funding partners to fully construct the project in the bond program. As I mentioned, we've had some success so far, having secured more than $680 million in partner funds. And this graphic illustrates the many sources of these partnerships, including federal, state, local funding, and that Flood Control District is working to secure for the Harris County. Each agency has its own definition of eligible projects and has own requirements for local match funding. So Flood Control District works diligently to match each project to the right partnership opportunities. You can see on the slide, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is in the red, with the red lines going over to existing federal projects. That's where Project Braze falls under one of those existing federal projects. We'll now move to the part of the program that's specifically about Braze Bayou Watershed and the Almeda Bridge project. We perform the Braze watershed is one of the most highly urbanized watersheds in the Harris County. It covers more than 128 square miles and it has a population exceeding 700,000 people. It's 31 miles long, makes it one of the longest bayous in Harris County. The bayou begins at the mouth of the Houston Ship Channel and moves west to Highway 6. It touches on many different communities along the way, including the Texas Medical Center, Westbury, and Meyerland communities. In the early 1980s, after the completion of the earlier federal project, which added the concrete lining to portions of Braze Bayou, the watershed continued to experience flooding. As a result, Project Braze, which is a federal partnership effort with the United States Army Corps of Engineers, was initiated. Project Braze is the flood control district's largest flood damage reduction initiative to date. When completed, it is estimated that Project Braze will cost more than $480 million to reduce the risk of flooding for thousands of residents and businesses along Braze Bayou. We use three main tools for Project Braze to reduce the risk of flooding. We can slow the water down by storing it in detention basins in the upper part of the watershed. The flood control district's detention basins of Eldridge, Old Westheimer, Arthur Story Park, and Willow Waterhole cover more than 800 acres and hold more than 10,000 acre-feet of water storage in these basins. The second tool, we perform channel modifications on the lower end of the watershed to move the water more efficiently to the Houston Ship Channel. The third tool we have is when we widen the channels, we have to perform bridge modifications or replacements to fit with these channel modifications above. With the majority of the channel modifications complete, there are 9 bridge replacements or modifications that remain out of the 32 bridges along the bayou to reach the full benefits of Project Braze. The Harris County Flood Control District has completed 21 miles of channel improvements, built the 4 stormwater detention basins, and replaced or modified 22 bridges to date. Tonight's meeting will focus on the Almeda Road Bridge. It is one of the 9 remaining bridge replacement projects needed to complete Project Braze. As this outer rendering shows, the Almeda Bridge project will be demolished and replace the current bridge with a higher, longer, and wider bridge. This will increase the capacity of the channel, allowing for more floodwaters to flow throughout Braze Bayou. The new bridge will have 5 11-foot lanes, including a left turn lane, and expanded 10-foot sidewalks on both sides of the bridge. The construction cost estimate is approximately $7.6 million, with the City of Houston contributing towards the cost of the sidewalk enhancements. As part of Project Braze, Harris County Flood Control District located, surveyed, and inventoried every tree along the bayou to determine the health and the type. We've been using these surveys in our planning and design process to ensure preservation, moving, or replacement in existing trees. As a result of our efforts, about 800 acres of green space will be created for residents and businesses in the Braze Bayou watershed. Another important program implemented by Harris County Flood Control District's Maintenance and Infrastructure Department is the Wildflower Program, which allows Harris County Flood Control District to plant native wildflowers along the bayou, increasing its beauty. Keep in mind that in addition to the trees and shrubs, that flowers will occur once the flood reduction portion of the Braze Bayou is complete. In the immediate area, when we came in and did the channel between Calhoun and Ardmore, and then Ardmore down to Holcomb, we did plant a lot of the trees, and you can see a lot of those trees have matured over the last 10 years. You can see them up there by the exercise along the bayou, along North and South McGregor's, where we planted those trees. During the construction period, the Almeda Bridge will be completely closed to commuter and pedestrian traffic. When traveling northbound on Almeda Road towards the project site, the detour will take you east along South McGregor Way to cross Braze Bayou on Highway 288 Feeder Road. Then turn west on North McGregor Way, continue traveling to Almeda Road to go north, to continue on northbound. When traveling southbound on Almeda Road towards the project site, the detour will take you west along North McGregor to cross Braze Bayou at Cambridge Street before turning east on Holcomb back towards to continue traveling southbound on Almeda. Please review the detour route map and this presentation on Almeda project page on the brazebayou.org website. During the construction period, the trails along Almeda Bridge will be closed. While constructing is occurring, the Braze Bayou Greenway trail segment on both sides of the bayou under the bridge will also be removed and closed. Pedestrians will be detoured through the Dixie Drive and the Columbia Tap Rail Trail during the construction period, as shown on the above screen. And the blue is the detour down Dixie Road and the Columbia Tap. The next step on Almeda Bridge project are the closure and construction of the bridge, currently expected to start late this winter and expected to be completed by the winter of 2021-22. And you can see the other work in the immediate area is the Calhoun Bridge replacement, which is farther downstream. We just recently completed the Ardmore Bridge, which is just downstream of the 288 intersection. And that's been our key in terms of our traffic control, was that bridge had to be completed before we started the Almeda Bridge reconstruction. We'll now turn it back over to complete the rest of this presentation.
All right. Thank you so much, Gary. Before we move to the Q&A session tonight, I do want to share a quick reminder that we'd love to hear from you on this project and other projects that are rolling out across Harris County. If you have any additional comments or questions throughout the life cycle of this project, or if you'd like to sign up to receive emails on this project and others in the watershed, you can visit projectbraze.org. Community engagement is an important component of the work we do, and we invite your continued participation as we move forward. Now, as a reminder, there are 3 ways that you can submit a comment about this project during tonight's session. You can do so on the comment box on the site near the presentation live stream. You can submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website, or you can submit a comment via phone, and that number is 855-925-2801. You'll want to utilize the meeting code 9107. And if you're joining us via phone tonight, please press *3 to leave a message. Additionally, I want to reiterate that any questions not addressed during tonight's Q&A will receive a response from the Flood Control District after the end of the public comment period, and that's on February 10th. Now, information from this meeting, as well as a recording of the live stream, will be available on the Flood Control District's website, and you can also look at that video again on our YouTube channel. Now, joining Gary for our Q&A session tonight is Rusty Lannon. With that, we will get to it. Rusty, the first question is for you. What are the plans for the trails along Braze Bayou following the completion of the construction project?
All the existing trails that are currently in place will be taken out and rebuilt in a 10-foot wide concrete that marries into the other trails that are in that area that are also 10 feet wide and concrete. There will be detours during construction, but once it's completed, all the existing trails will be back in service and be a much better product for the consumer to use.
Thank you, Rusty. Gary, next question is for you. Will you try to save or replace the trees impacted by this project? Gary, unmute.
Yeah, there are certain trees that are going to be impacted or be removed during the project. We've got, if the trees are in the city right away, we've got the appropriate tree removal permits from the city. And then we'll be mitigating or replanting inch for inch of trees back in the area of where those trees were removed. Sometimes we can't put them in the immediate area, but in the general area where the construction has taken part, or a little bit along our right of way, the city's right of way, we plant trees.
Thank you, Gary. Rusty, next question is for you. What coordination have you done to ensure a smooth transition and minimize traffic delays when the bridge is closed for construction?
We have worked with all the local areas. We've worked with the police, we've worked with the fire department, we worked with the schools, we worked with Metro to advise them that this bridge is going to be taken out for approximately a year, and coordinated our detours with them so they can adjust their routes accordingly when the bridge is out. We have detours for traffic that have been reviewed by the city. They've been reviewed by multiple additional consultants to see what other options we could use, and what is currently going to be put in place very soon is what is the best option that we were able to develop. The traffic will be difficult because the bridge will be out, but people will be able to detour around.
Thank you, Rusty. I'm sure that won't be our last traffic question, so we'll keep that slide close at hand. Our next question is for Gary. And Gary, does the Almeda Bridge detour plan include usage of State Highway 288 frontage roads or other local streets that may occasionally close?
Yeah, the northbound traffic on Almeda, once it comes up to where the bridge is going to be closed, the detour takes you on South McGregor east to the 288 intersection, and so we'll be using the bridge which is the frontage road along 288 that cross Braze Bayou, and then we have to cross back onto North McGregor, head west to get back to Almeda on the other side. So we will be using the frontage road of 288 for just a short bit of the detour trail.
Thank you, Gary. Rusty, next question is for you, and it's from Charlotte Moore. And she's asking if there was a neighborhood impact study conducted to review traffic patterns and diversions.
Yes, there was a study done many years ago that reviewed the traffic patterns and traffic effect of taking out the bridges. Then about a little over a year ago, we redid a study that used updated traffic information and current codes that the state and the city apply, and we did a traffic count and process to coordinate the sequence of bridge closures and what that effect was going to have on people, and the best way to resolve that is the sequence that we selected.
Okay, Rusty, another question for you. This one's from Brett. He's asking if there are plans to fix the Columbia Tap Trail at McGregor that was damaged during the Ardmore Bridge reconstruction.
I'm not sure specifically where he's talking about, that where we damaged the trail as part of our Ardmore construction. The city replaced a water line in that area and they damaged some trail. I believe that that's been repaired, but any work that was in our scope, we've repaired and replaced. We haven't. I don't believe there's any more to do as part of our work in the area.
Okay, thank you, Rusty. Gary, Bettina Patterson says trees have still not been planted on North and South McGregor between Ardmore and Calhoun. So between Ardmore and Calhoun, she's asking if there is a status update on that.
Yeah, during the construction, when this was many years ago, when we did the channel widening between Calhoun and Ardmore, once the channel was widened, we rebuilt the trails on both sides of the bayou. We've also planted literally hundreds, if not thousands, of trees in that section. Those trees today are getting to be pretty mature trees, 15, 20 foot tall. So we have planted numerous trees in that area. We did not plant them on the side slopes. That's where the water flows down during flooding. So we're not planting any planning on planting any trees along the side slopes of the channel itself, only on the upper areas, basically from the trail, between the trail and the north or south McGregor on either side. That's where we planted all the trees.
Thank you, Gary. Rusty, Randy Winiger said that you all have done great with this project so far. Thank you, Randy. Sounds like McGregor North and South are unlikely to be closed. Is this accurate, Rusty? Rusty, unmute.
Thank you for the compliment. The intersections where Almeda intersects with North and South McGregor will have to be closed in a phased manner, similar to what we had to do at Ardmore, where we shifted traffic over and then we shifted it back to be able to let the construction raise those intersections. It's a little bit more complicated than what happened at Ardmore because it's a four-way intersection on both sides, but the overall intersections will be rebuilt to allow for the bridge to be elevated about 5 or 6 feet that's going up.
Thanks, Rusty. This next question is for Gary. Richard Elbean is asking if there's a plan and timeline for Scott Street Bridge replacement.
Yeah, the Scott Street Bridge, we've already done all the channel improvements through there. When the Scott Street Bridge was built, it was built long enough and high enough for the project Braze requirements. We did slow paving underneath the bridge and excavation after that bridge was built. And we did that during the channel improvements. So there's no plans to replace the Scott Street Bridge. It's a relatively new bridge compared to the Almeda Bridge. Almeda Bridge is pushing 90 years old. That one is a youngster compared to that.
Thank you, Gary. Let's see here. We'll get to our next question. Rusty, Bettina Patterson is asking, why aren't citizens being notified 3 to 6 months prior to the start of projects? Also, why didn't communication come out about the Calhoun Bridge closure?
Well, our communications has a set schedule of when they try to announce the upcoming closures of bridges because of multiple factors can happen. Projects can get delayed, projects can get canceled, and so we don't do big publicized meetings such as this to announce a project until it's really very close. But also on our website, we've had information about this project for years. So, you know, we've been talking about it. We talked about it when we did Ardmore. We talked about it when we did the channel segments. We've been talking about it for a very long time. So the information has been available for people to know that this was coming. And concerning Calhoun, Calhoun is TxDOT is actually doing that bridge. They've had a time with their utilities, so they've gotten their utilities relocated, and they should be starting it fairly soon. But that is Calhoun. That's not us. We were doing some work around the bridge, but not the bridge replacement itself.
Thank you, Rusty. All right, our next question. Let's see. Tomorrow Bell is asking if you're going to wait to modify traffic lights for the increased traffic flow until after the project starts, or will you do it sooner?
Not sure exactly in terms of the traffic flow, modifying the traffic lights. As part of the project, when the bridge is replaced, we're going to rebuild both intersections on North McGregor and South McGregor on Almeda. Part of that work scope will have new traffic signals through that area, so there'll be left turn lanes. We're also increasing the left turn lane throughout the bridge. The timing of the traffic lights, the City of Houston / TxDOT will be looking at once the traffic detours are in place. They'll be observing the traffic flow to see if there needs to be any timing changes to the surrounding areas, whether it's down at Cambridge and Holcomb and Almeda or over at 288.
Thank you, Gary. Another question for you. Will this change the flood zone if you live near the impacted area?
If you're talking about flood zone, the FEMA flood insurance maps, Project Braze, when you change those maps, you've got to look at the whole project. Well, Project Braze has been going on for 20 years, and the maps were revised in 2000, early 2000. The maps will be getting changed after Project Braze is done, and it's also being revised to include the Atlas 14, which is a NOAA report to increase the rainfall amount. So the net effect of the FEMA flood insurance maps, we don't think is going to change much because you've got increased amounts of rain that are being put into the equation. But we've got the increases of flows that we're allowing down the channel through Project Braze. So the flood insurance maps, we don't expect much change on those.
Thank you, Gary. Rusty, we've got a couple of questions that are kind of similar, asking if we've communicated with ambulance services and then if we've coordinated with the medical center, as this is in the #1 trauma center exit.
Yes, we have coordinated with the EMS and emergency responders. We probably haven't communicated with every possible ambulance service that works in the area, but they will see signs and the bridge will be closed and detours will be in place. We have worked with the medical center. We recently finished the Greenbrier Bridge in the heart of the medical center, and they are knowledgeable of the project and knowledgeable of how long the closure will last, and have been updated regularly on the status.
Okay, thank you, Rusty. And Gary, I was going to ask, we're right at about the 7 o'clock hour. I wanted to see if we can do a quick recap on just the project portion for folks who may have joined us late or who are just now getting an opportunity to log in and get signed in. And then we can continue with our questions after. Is that okay with you, Gary?
Yeah, no problem. Just
okay.
go through the slides and I'll we'll go through it.
Good deal.
So give me the next slide. Okay, Braze watershed. It's 128 square miles. It goes all the way from the Houston Chip Channel, which is on the right side of the screen, all the way out to Highway 6 on the west side. That's the Barca Reservoir that it ends up. It goes from down on the east end, goes through the past the University of Houston, through the medical center, Meyerland, and goes all the way out to past the West Park Tollway. It's got a population of 700,000 people. And that 700,000 people really hasn't changed over the last 20 years. We're waiting for the latest census to see if that number has changed any. Project Braze, $480 million project. It's the largest flood damage reduction initiative ever done by Harris County Flood Control District. It's called a 211F. That's a part of the Congressional Water Resource Development Act that was named under. So Section 211F means that Harris County Flood Control can take the lead in terms of doing the design and managing the construction. We're reducing the risk of flooding to over 15,000 structures downstream of Beltway 8 along Braze Bayou. Next slide. We've got three main tools on Project Braze. We use stormwater detention basins to basically slow or store the water on a temporary basis, and that temporary basis is 24 to 48 hours. Those are on the upper ends of the watershed where it's more efficient just to store that water. The channel modifications, we've got 21 miles. Most of that's on the downstream end where we go all the way from the Houston Chip Channel up to Fondant as the upper limits of the main channel widening. So we widen it and deepen it to increase the amount of water we can move down the channel. Those 21 miles of channel modifications lead to the third tool, which is the bridge modifications and replacements. And we've got 32 bridges that we're either replacing, extending, or modifying. Next. This is the watershed, kind of shows where all the work is. The four main detention basins, you can see them from the west end. It's just Eldridge, then there's Old Westheimer, Arthur Story Park, and then Willow Water Hole is on the southern edge, down there south of 610 on Willow Water Hole Bayou. The channel section you can see is from the Houston Ship Channel on the very right-hand side, all the way through past I-45, 288, 610, and ends up there at Fondren. All the channel work is basically done except at the 9 remaining bridges that we have left to do. Presently, we've got Lawndale's under construction, Telephone's under construction. Hopefully, about the same time Almeda kicks off, Calhoun will be getting kicked off. We've also got a railroad bridge we're extending down in Mason Park. And then Buffalo Speedway is the other bridge that is just was recently closed to traffic. And so it's under construction at this time too. Next. The bridge we're talking about tonight is the Almeda Bridge over Braze, which is just on the edge of Herman Park, just east or just west of 288. Next. This is the artist rendering of the final bridge. It's going to be a 3-span bridge, which is what it is today, but it's going to be longer and wider. It's going to have 5 11-foot lanes. That includes a left turn lane throughout the bridge. We'll also have 10-foot sidewalks on both sides of the bridges, or both sides of the traffic lanes. The shelves underneath will be wider, and the trails on the lower shelf will be rebuilt for a full 10-foot wide trails underneath the bridge. Next one. We do impact some trees in the immediate area. Not as many as some of the other bridges that we've got to work on, but to date, we've actually planted over 52,000 trees to date. A lot of those have been in the detention basins, but there's also been a lot along the channel work as shown on the exhibit here. Next. This slide is showing the main detours we've got. If you're heading south on, or if you're heading north on Almeda, heading towards the bridge site, when you get to the intersection of South McGregor, there's only going to be really one way to go, and that's going to be heading east, making a right on South McGregor. We'll take that to the Frontage Road, and you go across Braze Bayou on the northbound Frontage Road, get to North McGregor, and you'll be able to go west on North McGregor and then get back to Almeda and either continue going towards the medical center, or you can continue or make your right-hand turn and go up Almeda. You're heading south on Almeda. Again, you're only going to have one way to go when the bridge is closed, and that's following North McGregor into Herman Park. You can get to Cambridge, use Cambridge across Buffalo or Braze Bayou down to Holcomb, and then Holcomb you could get over back to Almeda. You may want to continue north depending on where you're going, or continue south on Almeda itself. Pedestrian traffic will also be closed in this next slide. That's the red lines are showing where the Braze Bayou trail system is going to be closed underneath the bridge. We've got a detour that goes through Dixie, the Columbia Tap. There's not a lot of choices, but that's the same detour that we used during the construction of the channel section through that section. So same kind of detour that we had. It's not ideal, but detours sometimes aren't. It's a detour. It's not permanent, and so that's what we're looking at. Next slide. These are the main work. The one on the left is Almeda. We just finished up Ardmore last month, or I guess it was early January is when we actually had it all opened up and finished. The other bridge that's going to be starting is the Calhoun Bridge, which is further to the east over there by the University of Houston. TxDOT will be doing that, as Rusty had mentioned earlier, but they're working with us during the requirements that we need for Project Braze. Both Ardmore and Calhoun should be done by close to the end of this year. Next. I think that's it.
All right, great recap, Gary. That gets me to the next reminder here that we'd love to hear from you tonight. I'm going to give you a reminder on 3 ways that you can submit a comment about the project. You can submit a comment on the site near the presentation live stream in the box. You can submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website, and you can submit a comment via phone. That number is 925-2801. If you're doing so by phone, you'll want to utilize the meeting code 9107. And if you are joining us by phone tonight, you'll press *3 to leave a message. Additionally, just to give you a quick reminder that any questions not addressed during tonight's Q&A will receive a response from the Flood Control District. We'll do that after the public comment period has closed, and that closes on February 10th. Also, information from this meeting, as well as a recording of the live stream, you can find that on our website, and then you can also go back and watch it on our YouTube channel at your convenience. And we will get back to your questions. Next question will be for Gary. And Gary, Kamisha commented that the Columbia Tap Trail is not repaired. Please have someone take a look at it, is her comment.
Yeah, we'll take a look into it.
All right, and Rusty, Tamara Bell commented that Almeda Street is the business hub of the 3rd Ward. Is also asking if we've reached out to the business community in the area, to museums, and to the zoo.
Yes, we regularly communicate with impacted businesses and properties, and we post signage throughout the area. We also will have message boards that go up 2 weeks before the official closure of the bridge to relay that the bridge will be closing on such and such a date when that date is known. And that we have our phone numbers and websites all available for people to call if they have any questions or concerns.
All right. Rusty, Elizabeth Liscombe is asking if the construction will impact the water line which goes along with the bridge.
No, there is if you see on that picture that you're looking at right there, where the piers are that are outside the bridge, that is the existing water line that is there, and our construction doesn't impact that bridge. If you've been out there recently, you see additional piers that are just outside those existing water line piers, and that is Centerpoint Gas building a gas bridge, a gas pipeline bridge that is currently underneath the bridge, and the only way they could reroute it was to build an additional bridge outside the waterline bridge to reroute the 20-inch gas line.
Thank you, Rusty.
Yeah.
I love this artist rendering of the bridge. It's one of my favorites. Let's see. We have another comment, Gary. This one's for you. There's a massive development on Dixie and Holcomb. Are you all simultaneously increasing Dixie Street traffic with the other massive development in mind?
The traffic detail doesn't go down Dixie. That's just for the pedestrians trying to, if they route the pedestrians away from the South McGregor, it's trying to hook up with the Columbia Tap, since the trail, yeah, that's the one we're using Dixie. That's simply for the trail people. And we're aware of that, the redevelopment of that area, Holcomb, Dixie area down there. But we're not, there's really no traffic should be impacted down that area unless people are trying to do other shortcuts that they may want to do.
Thank you, Gary. Rusty, what other trail or road closures are taking place in the area that will affect the community? Rusty, unmute.
The only other project that's associated with the Bayou will be at Calhoun, where TxDOT's replacing that road. 288 construction has moved out of that area. They don't have any more lane closures planned in that area for their construction. And other additional roadways that City of Houston might be redoing, I don't know of any at this time. So we are coordinating with everyone to let them know that this is happening. So that is the plan.
Thank you, Rusty. Gary, what's the exact start date of this project? And when is the date the intersection will be closed? But we're also getting a couple of more questions just kind of about the construction timeline. So can you probably loop all that in there together?
Okay. We presently have a contractor under contract to rebuild the bridge. Things that have to happen the first thing that had to happen was Ardmore had to be completed, which has now happened. We're also waiting for the Centerpoint gas that Rusty had mentioned about the gas line that's being rebuilt. We can't demo the bridge until the gas line. It's a big 18-inch high pressure gas line on the bridge. It has to be relocated to its new bridge, which is just downstream between 288 and the water line. Once that's done, then our contractor could get out there. He's got some prep work that he's been working on. There's all kinds of marks out there. He's got to start working on the temporary pavement, as Rusty had mentioned. The intersections get rebuilt. We're going to maintain at least 2 lanes of traffic on North and South McGregor while the bridge is closed, but is going to require some temporary pavement on each side of the road. So there's a lot of prep work that the contractor is out there working on. It's going to remove signs. There's light poles that have to be removed. Traffic signals have to be realigned while we do all that work. So there's a bit of work that has to be done. And then, as Rusty mentioned, 2 weeks before he actually closes the bridge, and we're leaving that up to the contractor, he's got to put up message board signs that'll announce that the bridge will be closed, 2 weeks. It'll say a date, and it'll be 2 weeks up before that date. So the exact date we're leaving it up to the contractor, but we expect it sometime early March is what we're hoping.
Thank you, Gary. Can you go over again how this project is being funded?
Yeah, this is a federal project, and when we say a federal project, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is the federal component. They review our projects. We've got to have a plan to begin with, and this project's been going on for 20 years. So the Corps would be paying for the engineering and construction costs. Harris County Flood Control was required to purchase the land and relocate utilities, and the bridges were part of those relocations. In 2018, February, after Harvey, there was what they call the Bipartisan Act of 2018, which assured us funding for the balance of the project. Before that, we had to go year by year in terms of what the federal government would reimburse Harris County Flood Control for the work completed. That was always a problem because the work that we were doing takes about 3 years from when you say you're going to do it to get its design and construction initiated and completed. And then you didn't know how much money you were going to get from the Corps. Well, that changed in February 2018. So we're assured by the federal government to have the funds to complete the project. So that's why we're down to the last. We've actually got all the contracts have been awarded, and we've got contractors for all the work at this date.
All right, thank you, Gary. We've got a little over 10 minutes left, so I just want to give another reminder. We can still take more questions and comments from you tonight. You can comment in the box near the presentation live stream. You can also comment on the Flood Control District's website, and you can also go to projectbraze.org, or you can comment via phone, and that number is 855-925-2801. You'll utilize meeting code 9107. And again, if you're joining us by phone tonight, press *3 to leave a message. Again, any questions that we don't get to tonight, you'll hear from us after the close of the public comment period, and that is February 10th. As a reminder, though, anytime at all that you would like to go back and view this presentation, or you'd like to find out anything else about this project, you can go to our website. A video will be there, and also meeting materials will be there as well. And you can go back and rewatch this presentation on our YouTube channel. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. Gary, I do want to go back to you because we received several questions about trees impacted, and I know you addressed those at the very beginning of the Q&A, but just want to touch on it again. So will you try to save or replace trees that have been impacted by the project? If you can talk to us about that.
Yeah, there's certain trees that will be impacted, meaning we have to remove those trees. A lot of times those trees are right around utilities, so it's not really an option to try to relocate those trees. We do, if the trees are in the city of Houston right away, we'll get a City of Houston tree removal permit, and that requires us to replace those trees inch for inch with new trees in the immediate area. Sometimes it's not the exact location, but in the general area of where the trees were impacted to begin with. Project Braze has already planted over 52,000 trees and shrubs along the bayou from the detention basins all the way down to the Houston Ship Channel. Again, the area is through Herman Park, which is upstream of where this bridge is, and downstream all the way to Calhoun. We've replaced numerous trees in those areas. Those trees are getting pretty mature today. Driving through that area, I could point out all the trees that we planted. As you can see, they're the younger trees than some of the more mature trees, but it does give a balance of the for the landscape there.
Thank you, Gary. I do want to make a quick mention. We've had a lot of participation from our elected officials this evening. We had a message earlier from Commissioner Ellis, and also Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, Councilmember Evan Strabaz, and Precinct 1 staff also joining us this evening. We do appreciate your attendance as well. Rusty, wanted to talk some more about the coordination that we've done to ensure a smooth transition with the traffic delays. You mentioned all of the other groups that we're working with EMS and the fire department. If you can kind of touch on that again for us.
Yes, we've worked with the City of Houston School District, the police department, the fire department, the Metro, EMTs, the Herman Park Association, the medical center, Houston Parks and Recreation Department. We've been communicating with all these people about schedules and about what's impactions and the detours that are going to be required to shift pedestrians and traffic around throughout the construction. And it's all been looked at, and it'll be in place fairly soon. The detours for the pedestrians have been in place along the trail for over a month now. We detoured them. We initiated the detour when Centerpoint Gas started doing work on the gas line because you couldn't have people walking under where they're trying to put a gas line. So those detours have been in place for about a month, and they'll be continuing to do that for the foreseeable future until the bridge is complete.
Thank you, Rusty. Do we have an update on when Project Braze is going to be complete?
We're shooting for the end of the year. The whole goal was the end of 2021. We might slip a few weeks here or there, but the goal is to finish by the end of the year. We have 2 more bridges following this one that have just been awarded to a contractor up in the upstream area, and that's Chimney Rock and South Rice. And those 2 bridges will be under construction at the same time, where we're building a bridge in between the existing bridges.
Thank you, Rusty. For Gary, will traffic light timing on 288 feeder be adjusted due to the bridge closure and Detour?
We'll be taking a look at that. We can't change the timing. 288, I believe, is TxDOT has the control over the timers. City of Houston's got control of the timers at the other lights at Cambridge and other areas. And normally what happens, you got to put the detours in place. Traffic has a tendency the first couple weeks to kind of sort itself out, but then they'll be watching. If it's a real problem, they'll be making changes. But normally what we've been finding with the COVID going on is traffic is considerably lighter than any other times. Our traffic counts are way down compared to what we had planned on it. So far what we've been finding during the traffic when we close these bridges is that the traffic is not nearly as bad as how bad it could be. There's another question that came up about the, I think this is the bridge rails that are on there. The Almeda Bridge is an older style bridge in terms of the rails that you see. And it says Riverside subdivision markers. Not quite sure what all the comments are, but the bridge rails on Almeda are going to look very similar to the bridge on that you got out there today. It's not going to be exactly the same, but it's going to be a TxDOT safety rail that looks similar to what's out there today. That's kind of different from many of the other bridges, and that's due to this age of this bridge. We had to work that out with the Texas Historical Commission.
Thank you, Gary. We have another comment saying that when you took out the Ardmore Bridge, it took 30 minutes to get to Scott Street for residents along McGregor, and it was almost impossible to get out of their homes with lots of emergency vehicles using this exit. She says, I do not believe it is safe to wait until after the project starts.
That's really been the standard. The city doesn't want to make changes that aren't needed. It takes a certain amount of effort to change the timing. Again, right when the detours are put in place, there is usually a bit of traffic that gets congested till people understand what the detours are. This is the way we've done it on all the other bridges, is that they'll come out, it's the city or TxDOT, depending on who's controlling the control boxes for the timing, and they'll take a look at it, and they'll observe it for a time. They'll usually check it in the morning, check it in the afternoon rush hours, and they'll make adjustments from there. Again, we don't make those adjustments. It's either got to be the city of Houston on most of the lights around the city, but I think TxDOT's got the 288 lights.
Thank you, Gary. Rusty, let's talk about trails some more. What are the plans for trails along Braze Bayou following the completion of this project?
The trails along this project will replace the existing trails that are currently there. They will be demoed and put back with 10-foot wide trails that is our current standard that is regularly used up and down the bayou currently, and we will connect into them with new concrete trails.
Okay, thank you, Rusty. What is the total number of homes and businesses benefiting from Project Braze?
The total number is approximately 15,000 structures. We don't break it out by homes and businesses, but overall 15,000 structures will be removed from the existing 100-year floodplain. If you go to our website at projectbraze.org and you look at the maps, you can see the floodplain maps, and you can see the existing floodplain map and the Clomer floodplain map, and you'll see a drastic difference in the sizes from the existing to the Clomer. And the Clomer is when the project is completed. That's how the floodplain gets adjusted. That's the existing maps.
All right, thank you, Rusty. And we have one more question about the construction schedule. So we'll hit that one more time, and I think that may be our last question.
Construction is ongoing right now. The contractor's doing some prep work and getting things ready for the initial closure of the bridge and the demo to follow shortly thereafter. We expect the closure to happen in the March timeframe. There's some utilities that are still being relocated that we can't close and demo the bridge until that is completed, and it should be in the March timeframe. It'll be closed for approximately a year. They are trying to get everything wrapped up and finished before the end of the year, and that is our goal. It might take a few weeks longer, but that is what we're shooting for.
All right, thank you, Rusty, and thank you, Gary. Great job tonight. Thanks for all of you for joining us tonight. Just one final reminder that we will take more of your comments and feedback through February 10th. That's when the public comment period closes, so make sure you take advantage of the opportunity to let your voice be heard and get your questions and comments answered. We'd also like to encourage everyone to get flood insurance, and we say this every meeting because we know that flood season in Harris County is year-long. So thank you again for joining us this evening and for all of your engagement in this project. We look forward to continuing to share updates as our work moves forward. Stay safe and have a great evening.